Hello and welcome to Business Incorporated. I'm Imana Amawe. On the program today, World Bank forecasts South Africa's economy to grow to 1.3% this year, and Kenya seeks proposals for issuance of $2.5 billion Eurobond. Plus, the World Economic Forum annual meeting kicks off with 400 sessions in store. Very many thanks for joining us. And well, let's begin the show with some of the markets we track here on the program. The markets in Africa were trading mostly in negative territory as at intraday, but the Nigerian Stock Exchange bucked the trend by gaining 0.25%. The South Africa and Egypt stock exchanges inched lower by 0.61% and 0.35% respectively. And the Kenya SE was at a negative 0.27% as at the close of trade on Tuesday. In the Middle East, the stock markets were mostly positive at intraday, though the Qatar Stock Exchange came in at a negative 0.35%, having fallen in early trade, pressured by shares in the financial sector. The Saudi index was up 0.67%, lifted by property stocks, and Abu Dhabi gained 0.30%. The Dubai SE was also higher by 0.93% at intraday. European stock markets were lower in the morning as uncertainty over the state of Sino-US trade talks dominates the sentiment. Well, let's join Conrad from the European space to get update on what's happening over there. Hello, Conrad, and welcome. Thank you for joining us on the program.
Hi, Amana. Good to be back on Channels TV.
Yes, indeed. Good to have you here. How much more do we know about the news making the rounds on the U.S. Fed investigations into the affairs of the Deutsche Bank in relation to scandals around Danske Bank?
What we do know is that Deutsche Bank is denying any probe by the Federal Reserve, but I have to say this denial sounds also a bit half-hearted. Deutsche Bank says that it received several requests for information from regulators and law enforcement agencies around the world, and that Deutsche Bank continues to provide information to and cooperate with the investigating agencies. End of quote. So despite the words, there are no probes, of course, Deutsche Bank says there are several institutions, several regulators looking into the matter. And of course, Federal Reserve must be one of them, because in this case, which of course is mainly about Danske Bank, we are talking about American bank accounts. We are talking about clients that had dealings with the United States. So, of course, the Federal Reserve, as the major regulator of the United States, has to look into the matter. The position of Deutsche Bank in this so far is that as they were only acting as a correspondent bank, making sure that transactions by the Danske Bank clients could be effectuated, only a correspondent bank, Deutsche Bank did not have to make sure whether or not those clients, which were Danske Bank clients, were actually clean. But if you talk to Deutsche bankers here in Frankfurt, often, with the hands over their mouths, they would tell you that they dearly hope that this case will not turn into something like, after the financial crisis. Remember, Deutsche Bank, before the financial crisis, made many businesses, many transactions in the United States, which at the time were considered to be perfectly legal, but only after Lehman collapsed, after the real estate bubble in the United States burst, after all those foreclosures happened in the United States, then courts in the United States and the Department of Justice said, well, what we thought was legal in the past actually was not legal, and they eventually fined Deutsche Bank huge amounts of money. That might happen here as well, and this is what Deutsche bankers are really afraid of.
Anyway, in the coming days, I'm sure all eyes will be on that particular matter, so we'll get to find out exactly how things stand on the Deutsche and Danske Bank issue. Well, moving on now, what's the latest in cross-border investments and cooperation between European companies and China, despite the no-love-lost trade stance between Washington and Beijing?
Well, despite the nervousness around China, I have to say we have a couple of reports today that show that business between Germany and China continues to be quite active. Heidelberger Druckmaschinen, which is a large printing machine maker here in Germany in the beautiful town of Heidelberg, it reports today that its anchor investor from China, which is called Masterwork Group, is increasing the share it holds in Heidelberger Druckmaschinen. It pays a large chunk of money in cash, and the news is pushing Heidelberger Druckmaschinen, the share price, up around about 20% here in Frankfurt today. Another very promising cooperation is being announced by Merck, which is the pharmaceutical company here in Germany. We also have a Merck in the United States, but this is the original Merck based here in Germany. Merck is cooperating with the large Chinese high-tech company Tencent. They want to provide health services in China using artificial intelligence, using big data. And despite the fact that we are talking very sensitive sectors here, data of clients, stuff like that, stuff that is considered to be very security sensitive. It seems like all those hassles between China and the United States about, data security, about property rights, doesn't play a role. The German companies and the Chinese companies involved here really seize the situation, they seize the opportunities, and they let the Americans do all the discussions about the fundamental concerns about, legal problems and stuff like the security of data and, intellectual property and stuff like that.
Okay, just before I let you go, Conrad, another problem that is in the face of Europe right now is a likely hard Brexit. How would you say companies and markets in Europe are wrapping up their plans and actions in this last days?
Well, we have a bunch of companies today in the spotlight because they are sort of pulling out of Britain. The most prominent, and maybe, of course, if I may say so, one of the most ironic ones is P&O, the famous, shipping company that operates ferries over the English Channel, ferries with very prestigious names like Spirit of Britain, the Spirit of Canterbury. But P&O says that it's flagging out those ferries in the future. They will be operating under the flag from Cyprus, the island in the Mediterranean, which is part of the European Union. And P&O, in order to make sure that the company for those ferries in the English Channel can continue to get European tax benefits, says, well, they have to be running under a flag which is not, out of the European Union, not British, but Cypriot. Another company that says that it's moving its headquarters away from the United Kingdom, away from London, but to Amsterdam, is Sony Europe. And company number 3, and that's a bit of a highly political one, I would say, is Dyson, the maker of vacuum cleaners and in the future probably maker of electric cars. Mr. Dyson, the founder of this company, is a very fierce friend and defender of the Brexit. But today Dyson announced that it will move its headquarters away from London, away from Europe totally, and to Singapore. Mr. Dyson says this has nothing to do with Brexit, but of course, everyone at the moment is seeing this piece of news in light of Brexit and in light of the insecurity. Businesses that remain in the UK and that have their headquarters and their legal seats there do not know how business will continue after Brexit.
All right, thank you, Conrad. That for us at the Frankfurt Stock Exchange.